Alright everyone, welcome back to another King of the Hill cast in Beyond All Reason. I'm Twig, joined by Pradith, and this time we're not just casting it, we are the Kings, along with Tank Tom. Now we've seen your comments, a lot of you have been rooting for the defenders to hold and take out the win, and today we're going to give it our best shot. The three of us have dropped into the centre with our serious game face on, and we're ready to coordinate, fortify and punish any peasant brave enough to come knocking. It's the usual chaos, a massive swarm of attackers with a no-rush timer ticking down. But this time, the Hill's got AllReasonNoLogic stamped all over it. Let's get into it and see if we can finally give the Kings the victory they deserve.
Not only have we stacked the map with ourselves in the middle, we've also stacked ourselves on what should be one of the weakest points to push through, which is the left and right side. Not to mention, we've also managed to get some very good other players to join us in the middle. I'm looking at our formation right now with all three of us next to each other and thinking, damn, we probably should have put some good players between us. Maybe then we'd win.
Absolutely. You can see by the OSs on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there's a big range there. We do have Duxie in the middle that's going to take all of those 8 maxes and hopefully get some T3 units not too far after the 10-minute timer elapses. And Cookie Destroyer, one of the familiar faces on the equivalent side to me, just going west instead of east like me. They're the two weakest points to push. We'll see if we can get through at some point.
So while we're waiting for the action to kick off, let's just give a brief rundown of what is going on here. King of the Hill, all of the players in the middle have a plus 50% bonus or very close to. We tend to vary them just slightly so that we know who has played in the past and who to move in and out of the lobby. We've got a nice little lava ring that's going to disappear at the 10-minute no rush timer ending. And then we have all of the peasants, looks like 53 today around the outside. And we're going to see exactly how well we go against them. Another couple of the rules, air has been turned off. That does make it a little bit impossible to defend from all sides if you have to invest all of that precious eco in the 10 minutes. And no structures hitting enemy infrastructure at any point during the game, so use those defensively. If we look at how this is usually played out, the Kings have to try and get to a decent economy in that first 10 minutes. Minimum 1 fusion is what I like to say. And if we look around at the outsides, we have 3 distinctive types of spots on the top of these wedges here. These players are best off building units and helping the defenses, trying to get things going at the 10-minute mark. You want to be on the offensive at that 10-minute mark. If you're directly behind a ramp, I would recommend just a little bit of defenses, but even still go units. But if you choose defenses, that's not a bad choice. And then on the left, on each of the corners, these are the spots that it is easiest and best to go co-op eco. If you can manage it with another player, try to get that T2 lab and share out all of those minerals to everyone. All of the builders to everyone. And work your way down the map, helping with T2 at the 10 to 12 minute mark, and then going into lots of eco if you can't crack the Kings early on.
That's exactly what we've got happening in 3 of the corners. We've had a T2 coming eco in the top left, top right and bottom left. I'll just check on the bottom right, what's happening down there. Not quite as fast, everyone going individually. And what actually happens when you get these coming ecos, corners actually get to T2 and upgraded mexes faster than the Kings. You can see the Kings, none of them on T2 yet. We're at almost 4 minutes, and now our center player finally going into T2. That should come up before the 5-minute mark. No one else. Oh, we have one advanced lab almost up by the plot down here, so a very quick T2 transition there. But yeah, peasants first to T2 generally in those coming ecos, and that's what's needed to keep up with this 50% eco bonus that all of the Kings have in the middle.
For those of you interested in a Kings build, the one that I tend to run with is going 1 mex into 2 wind the lab. Then I build myself 5 T1 construction bots, sending 2 of them out to grab the mechs in front of me, 1 to grab the mechs at the back, and the rest into wind and construction turrets. I like to get myself to approximately a 1,000 wind income for that T2 transition. You just let the metal build up until you're about halfway there, and then if you've got enough build power, you can slap it down, eat the T1 lab, and get the T2 up about as fast as is reasonable while still getting a lot of wind. setting the com to build some conversion for when you are overflowing and you get that fusion. 2 T2 builders then rush out, and one of them is dedicated to building the mexes, the other one is dedicated to building up your base. I don't do it perfectly this run around, but hopefully that won't be too much of a disadvantage for the team. A little bit rusty having cast for most weeks leading up to this.
That's it. We always appreciate that you're jumping in there. Check out those streams every Sunday, guys. We are live for about 4 to 6 hours every Sunday, evenings Australian times, roughly midday European times, and early in the morning for the US, Canada, etc. Tank Tom and I going into very similar builds to Praedyth. Myself also Armada. Tank Tom going Cortex. He always goes the advanced solars, which do use up a bit more metal, but definitely give him that consistent energy income. But you can see his energy is quite a bit lower than what Praedyth's is with all these wins up.
Brisket for the biscuit is what I like to do, and using the CT2 lab to get the fusion down, though I have stuffed up just a tiny bit with build power, so leaking a little bit of metal, but it's not going to matter because the fusion is 4,500, which I have the metal for, so no worries there.
Very nicely done. Looking around at the other kings, a little bit more of a quiet base over here. The pot not with as much eco, relying I think on a little bit of that Legion metal extractor. By the way, Legion is on, where you also get a plus on energy. You can see 7 energy coming out of each of these T1 extractors, but as they're upgraded, they do not produce energy. In fact, they take away 20 energy per extractor. So you can see the pot's energy quickly falling down there, potentially relying on other ecos to overflow until the central eco gets their fusions up. I don't think that overflow is going to happen though. I do have Tank Tom going straight to an Aphis.
A couple of overflow players in the early game is no worries, but as soon as everyone starts getting their conversion online, that disappears very quickly. And I would highly recommend that you've got somewhere in the realms of 1,000 energy income all on your own.
I give everyone a hop tip that does the destruction of their commander around the map. You can see these little nice potholes due to the levels that we have to put the that we have to put the lava so that we can get these very nicely positioned divisions between the kings and the peasants. If you destruct your commander on any of these lower levels, you're going to leave a hole there, and you can see a little constructor not quite reaching the commander, and you're just losing the metal. Go destruct them up on the ramps like this here and get there.
One of the things about Raptor Crater is that it was never designed to have this done to it. Somehow we've managed to partially invert the map. Well, we didn't. A good friend of the channel Chrono did. But the tolerances are so tight on how well this has been done and how coincidentally the map is possible to make this happen that yes, the lava pokes up even at the tiniest bit of destruction.
Well, you can just see there on the edge of the map. Look at the distance between them.
It's so close. It's so close.
All right, we've got 2 minutes left. Are units coming out for anyone yet? I'm just going to drag box around everything. There we go. Anything that turns white, like down here, that's units coming out. Kings, couple Thanos on the left.
You know what I really don't like? It's all the units that are getting ready in front of my 2 entrances.
So yeah, just to highlight, this is Praedyth, myself Tweak here in the beautiful pink, and then Tank Tom over here. So we're going to see if we can break these lanes with support each other. I feel quite comfortable playing in between Prey and Tom. They both know what they're doing. I know I have the easiest lane. You do.
I do not at this point, right now.
I mean, you do get less play time than you used to because you do cast these so much more, and it isn't like riding a bike. You can't just get back on and do it right. I know I've practiced some eco builds where I get up 2 fusions, and yeah, I definitely don't do that as well as I used to now. So I usually just go the 1 fusion into units. You can see I've been greedy here, and shit's not going to get done in time.
I've certainly gone for an offensive play, but my build queue is not on. Oh, it is on repeat. I've got it on wait to try and get that Aphis up. I do not think I have quite enough to deal with all the T1. It's not that I can't kill it. It's that I can't be there to kill it.
Yeah. I like to get a lot of spam out. You can see my usual build goes into 2 labs with tick spam, and I also put down some mines, which will deter any peasants that give a fast raid. I've kind of got PTSD from when X Factor, I think now known as Darth Revan, rushed me with about 60 incisors and destroyed my base within the first 30 seconds of the no rush timer elapsing. Speaking of no rush timers, let's check out this beautiful lava drop.
And there it goes. And so too do the units, as we've got a big pouring down in the top part of the map, but plenty of defenses there, as well as units trying to make their way down, but a counter-offensive with the spiders heading up the ramp. Unfortunately for me, some gauntlets hitting at my defenses. Not a lot I can do about that right now, but pulling my units back to try and deal with the ramp I left completely undefended. That is entirely my fault, and something Twig is heading units into cover. Thankfully, I do have a bit coming out to try and defend this, and this is going to be one of the greatest moments of this game, for me at least. You can use the alt drag command to tell your turrets to eat units, which is what is about to happen. I do lose some, but all of these units are now being reclaimed by my build turrets, and that is going to save me unbelievably close just there. If my build power had all been in one big chunk, yeah, that's fine. I don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
I dragged
if my build
everything
power
south,
hadn't been split up, I'd have lost it all.
and almost let a leak through my north. Luckily, Tank Tom pinching some of those plasma bots, and we cover that gap. But now he's under a lot of pressure as well. We do have a commander all the way into our base. Trollus coming all the way up here, degunning those units. These Decurions really hurt. Like for a T, they feel like a T1.5 unit in my opinion. The Legion still a little bit unbalanced. They just seem to take out so much. You get a couple of long range shooters behind them. I forgot what they're called, and they make
any of them
awesome
with the railguns.
Yeah.
But yes, these are the reason I think they're so good is because they're quite survivable, and because of that absolutely consistent damage, it's not like they have to shoot and then wait, so they're never overkilling anything. They're always exactly killing anything. So the damage is just always on point. They've got good range, and they're great at dealing with small targets because they can change what they're shooting at often. But they're also great at dealing with big targets because their DPS is high enough for that.
Really important, Trilos and the other players up here. We got Murdoch, Egal coming down with their units, keeping me busy. I had a perfect opportunity to push through then. Getting pushed down here as well. Praetor, what are you doing? You're letting units through.
They're coming now. They're coming now. I was a little late. I was controlling my spiders.
As you can see, there's not much damage to defend this area here. If I could just get my spiders up and over that hill, I could actually do something here. But we are getting very distracted, keeping that eco going as well, continuous. I've more and more lately just been not worrying about the APHIS, been going into the fusion and then 2 converters just to keep my construction at a point where I'm not dragging all my resources and I can build eco at the same time as units. Tank Tom nicely pushing back those armies with Fiends, so taking that distraction away, I've used that advantage to send some Webbers up with the Recluse and hopefully get a bit of reclaim behind the damage I may or may not do.
And this is something which you do a lot better than I do. Those Webbers in front of your Recluse are an absolute amazing addition. I did not do that, and I reckon that is why I've lost all of mine to a counterattack just by T1 units down there. Those Webbers so good at just taking and holding some units off for a moment, but also stunning them, giving you the opportunity to actually get the hits on with the Recluse. And because they all have that traversable terrain ability, very, very strong. My defenses, unfortunately, mostly wiped out because of a high ground gauntlet. Not a lot that can be done about that for the moment, but I'm sure I'm seeking some revenge pretty soon on that, especially with those Recluse. One of my favorite tactics is hiding them inside of a smuggler so that nobody can see me coming.
Shout out to Orat, one of the regulars that's in these games almost every single week. Great player, just degunning probably about half of my army there. And now Tank Tom's come down to help a leading hand. This is really important. You don't have to push your lane. If a lane adjacent you gets through, go and jump down the already broken defenses and then sneak around the back. Get the reach around happening.
It's not about dealing damage to your opponent. It's about dealing damage to the enemy team, however that happens to be. And the kind of damage we want to see is economy damage. It's fine to kill an army, but if that army was just sitting there defending, then you can go around it and do other things.
The only breach on the right hand side I did see on the left, Cookie Destroyer did come up here and breach this area, but it has been rebuilt very quickly. Not much here to defend though. Are any of these, are these all walls? Yeah, they're all just walls, so they a free walk straight through there. It is really important for both kings and peasants to scope out, just inspect every ramp with a tick or whatnot, even some invisible bots, just to make sure that there aren't any free wins to be had.
I mean, I'm okay with free wins if I'm the team getting the free win.
Well, that's it.
That's fine by me.
We have a lot of ticks and pawns rushing up here for the now pink player. Color changes as we select players.
Now, one of the things that is definitely worth talking about just here, what is different between this game and a lot of the other games that we've cast? And I think that one of the big differences here is that the kings are mostly holding that plateau. There isn't a single point here where the ramps have been taken over by the peasants. And I reckon that that's a big factor for how well the game goes for the kings. By controlling these ramps, by keeping the units off of the plateau, all of this available space is protected, the bases are protected, the extra little bit of eco here and there, even though I haven't rebuilt mine, is all protected. And by the way, it would be super easy for me to rebuild mine. All I'd have to do is chuck a couple of res bots into my T1 queue and just res them. Naughty me.
I'm probably the only player that doesn't have defenses. Or you had them, you've lost yours.
Oh, I didn't really build them. I built them on one ramp, but I lost them to a gauntlet, so it is what it is. We do try and police the rules, but not always possible to get it right every time, especially when we're playing.
Over in Australia, we have the game Australian Football Rules, and one of the teams I support, I remember our most successful era, we had a coach whose motto was, it doesn't matter how many goals the other team scores as long as you score more. He didn't worry about defense, he just wanted the attack to be perfect. That's my tactic that I'm sticking with. As I say that, I have got a backup of LLTs coming down just for those tick run bys. I find we see a lot of games where just like a lonely tick somehow sneaks past all the defenses and gets into the base, and all of a sudden you just see a massive chain reaction of aphises going off.
And that's the thing, T1 units are surprisingly good at dealing with all of your problems. I've just broken my ramp with T1 units. There is some T2 backup, but it was the flood of T1 that got through, killed the comm, blew up the defenses, and now open season on this bottom side. My two wedge players destroyed, my direct opponent destroyed, and now we've got to try and get up that hill. And one of the things that has happened because of this constant aggression on these sides, the peasants have not been allowed to ramp. We're currently sitting at approximately 2,300 metal for each team, and if the peasants and the kings are in an equal spot at the when we're coming up on the 20-minute mark, then the kings are in a very, very good spot.
Yeah, with that 50% bonus, it really ramps up. So 2 players broken now. Tank Tom doing damage on the right as well. We've got spam coming out of Cookie Destroyer. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes down shortly, especially with that T3 lab now being produced. You can see how much metal in the bank that is going to be built quickly.
What do you reckon? Demons?
Demons,
it's always demons out of Cookie Destroyer.
Really good in King of the Hill. Really good. One of my favourite reasons for use of demons over, say, Razorbacks is you can use ground fire. And if you know that the commanders are ahead of you, a demon firing at the ground for only a few seconds is enough to take out a commander, and it stops that D-gun taking out the entire army. I'm liking what you're doing down here. You got hounds on the offensive on fight command. Unfortunately, these Prometheus will probably make relatively quick work of them, but you do have fat boys coming behind, and yeah, they do take off a good 10-20% each.
One of the nice things about the way this positioning has worked out, because both of us have managed to break up our ramps, we can now pincer the players, so now they're in the bad position where they have to deal with multiple angles of attack. There is no safety. This corner is now isolated, and if it's isolated, it is quite destroyable, and you are making a very good move right now, splitting off just a couple of those spiders to head up onto the high ground.
What I wasn't doing was keeping my welders ahead of the spiders, so I lost about 4 or 5 units there that I didn't need to lose. But yeah, they're close up on the hill.
But if you take out the fusions, it's totally forgivable, because that is well worth that entire attack. Even if the whole thing failed and did nothing else, if they grabbed those fusions, it is worth it, because that is a player now who is on almost no income.
We've got Duxie with some Shivas out on the front line, and then Demons coming. Well, you're right over here. We actually have Kargis coming out of Australia.
See, this is the other one, which is really good. If you are having trouble getting up the ramps, just don't. Just go use the spiders. Spiders strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this you're to play where your opponent isn't if you want to win. If you want to do well in King of the Hill, because sometimes just throwing your forces at the same problem is not going to net you anything. Not to mention, the peasants always have a lot of commanders to throw at a problem. We have seen plenty of games that get to the point where there are 4 or 5 juggernauts going up the ramp, but because they're not supported by anything else, a single comm comes in and uses like 1 or 2 D-guns to multi-kill the entire lot of them. Absolutely crazy damage.
I've left you down south feeling that that's quite safe down there. I've started to head north to help out Tank Tom. He's getting a lot of pressure now from units. There are some T3s. Oh, actually, they're on. They're now, are they? No, they're not. Not on.
Clean them up. Clean them up.
I'm trying to.
I've got support coming up from the pot. The pot is doing very well in their lane. They haven't completely killed their opponents, but there is plenty there that I'm not worried about.
Yeah, when you've got pressure on all sides, it really makes things easier. A lot of spam coming out here, but Tank Tom going into a ridiculous amount of Sheldons, so that's safe.
So many Sheldons. Oh my god, 80 Sheldons. That's I think 80 Sheldons is enough to deal with spam. And those Sheldons are not good at dealing with spam if you've tried to do that before.
If you can keep Razorbacks moving, they take out these Recluse quite well, because those missiles do not track off the Recluse. They shoot and strafe. We'll get a bit more damage.
It's going to be nice. This is where the verticality of the spider is just so strong. All you have to do is take out that little bit of that tiny little bit of conversion, and then a few more missiles on a couple of those targets, and all those fusions will go down. That one Chimera doing great damage to you. In fact, a couple of Chimeras doing good damage, but still, that's the eco taken out for another player.
Oh.
Are those pop-up turrets?
Yeah. I'm still learning Legion, people. I'm just going to jump over to the other side, because these are...
Oh, the march of... Yes. These have come up... These are... They've obviously come up the side. They're taking out one of the players, bypassing the 4 gauntlets that have been helping to hold this space, and now they're heading straight up to the large eco centers.
Just an FYI, people, these gauntlets shouldn't be placed where they can reach the advanced metal extractors. One of the rules that we promote is that all towers get built so that they can't reach those, so that we know that we just can't creep on structures throughout the map. Otherwise, it's way too hard for the Kings to defend.
But in this case, with T3, the gauntlet's just not good enough to stop it, and evidently they didn't have too much vision to play a pivoting role. One of the things to note is that all the rules, with the exception of no air, is essentially honor rules. You have to do your best to just try to adhere to them, because there is nothing in the game that forces you not to build within ranges of certain things.
Wow, that APHIS literally got built 1 second before the Kargis came over. Sometimes if you know something that's going to be built like that will go boom. I will let it just finish being built just to get that satisfaction. Also, you might get a nice juicy reclaim there because it did get finished.
Or you can res it. Once you take a corner, and you're pretty safe to, just send resbots in to take all their economy as your own. It can be a phenomenally powerful strategy.
Yeah,
And just while all that is popping up, we have a similar story happening in the bottom side. My large army of fat boys have made their way through and are now assaulting the very last area. But let's jump back to the actual interesting stuff, which is the Karganeths.
well,
Everybody likes T3 units.
I like it. There's two ways of doing this. Cookie Destroyer obviously held off the T3 when for overwhelming strength. Great for Cortex as well. The other way to do it is put that continuous pressure on. You didn't get up to T3, you got plenty of T2, and you constantly kept that pressure on. Another Eco Center going boom, and we can see some more AFs in that corner there.
And this is one of the things that Bar has gotten so very right. And no Cookie Destroyer, don't kill the Soul Invictus. Leave the Soul Invictus. No, no.
Oh, I love the chain reactions. Yeah,
oh, the wind, the wind. This is just so satisfying. And that's what I was saying. The developers have got this just down packed. It doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. Those chain reactions are just so good.
Games with satisfaction. Pop broken through, taking out the last of his opponents. Here, 2 players left. The Eco gone, just the one Bastion holding steady.
Thank goodness. This evadable has been the bane of my existence, destroying so much of my spam with my own units, stopping this assault from going so quickly. Just this small amount of what are they, rascals and fiends walking towards my army has made my fat boys kill so much of it. But if I didn't use the fat boys, I'd lose them. So
that reminds me of the recent Wednesday release of Tank Tom's Road to OS 25, where he was using ticks to take out an entire tank army that was backed up by Janus. So his team kills of the Janus, taking out every single unit.
Evadable, you'd better not have watched that and then copied it. I'll be so mad if that's if that's the reason you did that. We're not promoting strategies to beat us. We're promoting strategies to beat other people.
Okay, obviously. 2 corners are defeated and 3 of the flanks defeated. 2 of the flanks, 2 remaining on each side. There's a lot of eco here and not enough units, not enough build power to get these out as well. I'd be throwing as much metal towards this player that's got T3. I don't know if this is the right unit. This is a single shot unit, isn't it? Oh no, it's got machine guns underneath. Did not realise. Legion is so satisfying.
One of the things that I love about the Legion units, they seem like they're every unit that that was just too cool to balance was thrown into one faction. And we'll see how they manage to balance over time, because you have absolutely everything in this. You've got giant robots with beam lasers that destroy spam and massive units. You've got the Decurion, which is a multi-shot railgun tank. You've got the flame launcher, the flame launcher Infernos. Very strong equivalents to a grunt that fire something more akin to a thug shot, but there's only the one cannon, so slower fire rate. They just have a real mix and diversity of units, and we'll see how they go over time. I certainly struggle playing against them at the moment.
Single demon rushing up to this top right hand corner there. If it can see
no
that conversion.
Spam for you.
Yeah, we've got a target fire there, and that goes pop. Can we get enough? We are going to see this go down. Yes. Juicy.
How quickly does that go down to the flames? They're such high DPS, but inversely, those handful of Razorbacks cleared the demon in no time flat as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
They do die very easily. The slow wave.
You gave me one recently in a game, and I think it only lasted about 10 seconds.
Yeah, we were playing. Now Wednesdays we verse AI on one of our streams, and one of our rules was you're only allowed to have 1 lab per 2 people, and the units that I chose to share out weren't the right units for the job. They definitely have a niche.
They're fun though.
Commander destroyed.
Does look like on the bottom side of the map the March of the Karganeths is now taking its next set of victims, and we should see a lovely chain reaction over here if they target any of that conversion.
There's obviously target priorities. Nice.
There it goes. Oh, nice. And it spread the entire way across. And the build turrets too. Delicious. There are plenty of comms here to kill all of those Kargis, though, but they do have to get onto it really quickly, and I don't think that we're going to see that in time. No.
Destroyed.
Nice.
Very good. Very, very good explosion, and that's going to be the bottom corner effectively cleared for now.
Commander
Not
has
much
died.
left. Top right now
Commander
down. We're just down to
destroyed.
the last little bits of eco. A few of my leftover recluse taking out the last of the fusions, and there is no more construction happening on the top left now. Very small farm, and okay, Bod's doing their things. Bunch of bastions there. Don't know what they're protecting though. There's no eco left down there.
I'm sure there'll be something at some point, but yes, at this point the game is effectively over, just some cleaning up needing to be done. And everybody sending all of their units across to do that little bit of cleanup. And while we're doing that, Twig, what do you think was one of the biggest changes? Wow, that sounds awesome. What do you think was one of the biggest changes between this and a lot of the peasant victories that we've seen?
Commander
It was really
has
just
died.
consistent base setup across all the kings. Quite often kings will lose due to weak links, and every one of these kings set up their base with the ecos obviously such that they're not going to chain react too much. Obviously it's got to the stage where there will definitely be chain reacting, but we built our ecos kind of in our little sectors first, so if one of us was to leak, it's not going to chain react. And everyone put aggression on straight away, or at least had sufficient defenses. So yeah, just I think it was simply just no weak links in this side of kings. Also, maybe the peasants didn't push as hard as they should have. I saw at the start you got pushed quite hard. If maybe two other players in that bottom corner pushed along with who pushed you, it would have been probably game over for you. Yeah, you just had that little bit more against you. Oh, this is one of those.
I don't think
special
that the
comms,
eco corners were the strongest we've ever seen in this game mode.
Well, they were quite strong, but they just didn't build units early enough. I
That's
think.
exactly. There was some co-op eco, but it didn't convert into the mass units. But one of the other things is that by the time that the kings were knocking on their door, they didn't have time to convert into the absolutely massive economies we sometimes see. The constant pressure out of the kings stops anything like that from happening. So I think the real difference is that we were on the team. no. The real difference is essentially that the kings put on more pressure than the peasants. By the kings controlling the middle ring really well and putting on more pressure, regardless of what was happening around the map, it could never just be that pure eco that's needed to match the king's 50% and then coming in with overwhelming force. Or likewise, as you said, if the peasants had put on a lot of pressure early on, then the shoe would have been on the other foot, and we would have been stuck. We would have been stuck inside our base defending, and that happens particularly with those weak links.
Well, guys,
So-
you've been asking in the comments for a king's win, and finally we've seen one. It was a tough
It's
push
not
out.
over yet. There's still one Evo com. He could still win.
Oh, they are powerful. I mean, if I was him, I'd be beelining it for the 10 commanders that we've got in the middle. Someone's obviously gone and resurrected a couple. Yeah, Small's done that. Just got the commanders up. Resing everything out in the corners. I think this commander's about to die as well.
Nah, it's still anyone's match. Still anyone's match.
Has died.
Oh, fuck. Oh,
There we go.
so close.
Battle ended.
Very nicely done by all players. Prey up there with some of the wars Cookie destroying a hell of a lot, and really nice to see a peasant actually getting up there for the defenses, taking out a little bit. I must have missed some of that eco that went down. Actually, sorry, that's enemies and defenses. So yeah, just putting on that pressure.
And having a quick look at some of those stats, one of the things that is very nice to see is just how blue dominated the damage dealt is for the first 16 to 20, like the first 24 odd minutes of the game. The blue team, everyone really doing damage, whether they were defending or attacking, very
I've just realised
strongly
that this
done
red
there.
line was the Evo column, so maybe I'll take back what I was
Yeah,
saying about
yeah.
that a lot.
And then, as you'd expect for the metal and energy produced, it is King's favored, but you got to remember there's a lot more lines. You're basically counting the area under all the graphs.
That pink is right in there. There's only 3 kings with more metal produced. Or was that one of ours? That was
For
me.
me, it's
That
blue,
was
so I
me.
can't tell.
was
Yeah,
pink.
you did that on purpose, Twig. You did that on purpose. You were just like, oh, I just want to show off. I can see you now. You're patting your shoulders. You're dusting your shoulders. It's a good time.
Oh, one real strong ego there, at least from the peasants side. And it was a nice one. I enjoyed playing that one a lot. It was good to have all three of us in there. It's been a while because you're always in the casting booth, and quite a fun one to have the kings roll over the peasants in the end there. We do try and pick out the closest games that we cast each week. We didn't actually realize we were only releasing peasant wins. Just the way that these games go. If kings win, they're usually a whitewash, just roll out and stomp over everyone. If the peasants win, usually it's a hard fought win once they finally eco up. And that is why that's happened in the background. My bad.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you want to play with us live, we're on at Sunday nights Australian time, about 9 p.m. ACT. If you want to jump into the Discord, links in the description. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will catch you next time.